Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode number 2 of Auburn Tigers Live from the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Taylor Jones, coming to you here on, as we mentioned, the second ever episode of Auburn Tigers Live. We had a lot of fun in last week's show. We talked a lot about the transfer portal. That was the big headlining thing that we talked about last week, not only in football, but in basketball as well. Had some that left, had some that were brought in. Talked a little bit about what Hugh Freeze is looking to do now that A-Day is over. We talked a lot about that. Talked a lot about good stuff, and we're going to talk about a lot more great things today on the second ever episode of Auburn Tigers Live. As we mentioned, I'm your host, Taylor Jones. You may know me from the Auburn Wire. I'm the lead writer of the Auburn Wire, and also happy to be a part of the Voice of College Football Network as well, where we get to talk about Auburn Tigers sports every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. And you can check us out anytime following our live time. If you're not able to check us out live, be sure to check us out on Apple Podcast, on Spotify. You can also watch the archive of this show on YouTube as well at your convenience. Got a lot to get into today, so what we'll do to start off is kind of go down all of the headlines that graced Auburn football and Auburn sports in general over the last week. And of course, the big one that we're going to be talking about today is the NFL draft. 3 players from Auburn were selected in this year's NFL draft. There were a handful of others that signed an undrafted free agent contract. Going to get down into all of those signings, whether they were drafted, whether they were picked up through the UDFA, and what's next. What we expect to see next year in the NFL draft, which I think we may be able to break a streak that has just been haunting us for quite some time, and we look forward to possibly breaking that streak in next year's NFL draft, and some of the others that we need to be looking for. Some that are going to be seniors that are worthy of earning an NFL spot, some that could leave the program early as juniors. Going to be taking a look at that today here on the show. And the transfer portals, we mentioned we're going to be, I'm sure, talking about that a pretty good bit over the next several weeks as Auburn looks to fill their rosters not only in football but in basketball as well. But Auburn football got a big addition since the last time we spoke, and that was Rashawn Pleasant, a cornerback from Tulane. Not only is he a great cornerback, but he is a pretty solid returner as well, too. And we'll look to see how he fits in both the cornerback game and the defensive secondary, and how he fits in the return game as well. And looking at what he's done, I'm very excited about Rashawn Pleasant being an Auburn Tiger, and I feel like he's going to do a lot of great things when he's in the orange and blue. Going to talk a little bit about recruiting as well, and some of those will involve transfer portal players that could be visiting Auburn over the next week. Some needs that still need to be met. Some high school recruits, a pair of 2026 recruits have put Auburn in their top schools. One of them has already scheduled a visit. I'm sure the other one is going to schedule a visit over the summer as well. So we, of course, are going to be talking about high school recruiting, transfer portal recruiting, all that good stuff here on today's program. And then we're going to step out of football for just a little bit. I was looking at everything that we could possibly talk about today, and one of the things that I looked at, it happened a little bit before we started recording the show today. One key member of Auburn's Final Four team who entered the transfer portal, some would say very controversially entered the transfer portal, he's found a new home, and not with Auburn. I'll go ahead and give you that spoiler if you don't already know. And then Auburn baseball got a much-needed series win against Mississippi State. Kind of played a back-and-forth game in the Friday game. Ended up getting that win on Saturday. Started off real slow, tried to chip away, but just could not do it. And then on Sunday, they got off to a hot start and was able to coast all the way through to a Sunday win and a series win. Coming up this week, they're going to take on Samford at the Hoover Met. Going to get one game in at the Hoover Met before the SEC tournament starts in a couple of weeks. And then they will travel up to Rocky Top, Tennessee, another top 15 matchup in the wings. And, of course, Tennessee coming in not feeling so good. They didn't have a great trip to Baton Rouge over the weekend, so they're excited to get back in front of their home crowd and looking to do some damage to Auburn. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Auburn's going to have a pretty successful week in Knoxville. We'll talk about last weekend's series. We'll talk about this week's series here in the show as well. Not only are we going to talk about all those things, but we want to talk about everything that you want to talk about. Everything that is on your mind, Auburn related. If you're watching us live, be sure to head on over to the comments. Anything that's on your mind. If you'd like to ask us a question, if you'd like to just, give us general comments on anything that we're doing on the show, some things that you would like for us to talk about. If you're interested in more, NFL draft stuff, we can talk more about the NFL draft and what happened over the weekend with Auburn and what could happen over the next several years as Auburn looks to kind of get more relevant in the NFL draft game. Recruiting is, of course, going to be a big topic of discussion that we're going to be chatting about over the summer as summer months start. And then into the season, too, because Hugh Freeze is going to try to get several key players on campus for visits during pivotal games. So we're going to be talking about recruiting. If you'd love to talk about recruiting, be sure to put that in the comments, and we will love to answer your question. Because the way that we look at it, of course, we're going to be talking about everything going on in Auburn sports, but we want to involve you guys as much as we can. So be sure to send us a comment if you're watching live. If you're not watching live, head on over to YouTube sometime in the next week and leave your comment, and we'll be happy to read it on air for our next show, which again will be next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, right here on the Voice of College Football Network. So the one thing we're going to talk about now, and of course it's the big thing that happened over the weekend, and that is the NFL draft. 3 Auburn players were taken in the NFL draft, 2 of them going to Los Angeles, 1 staying on the East Coast in Jacksonville. Starting off on day 3, it was running back Jarquez Hunter getting drafted by the LA Rams. Number 117 overall, 4th round overall selection. Keandre Lambert-Smith went next in the 5th round, going 158 overall to the LA Chargers. And then Jalen McLeod went in the 6th round, number 194 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, was Auburn's only 3 draft picks? Was it expected? I felt like they may have, they were going in. I felt like maybe 3 was a safe number. I felt like possibly 4. Not saying that Jalen McLeod didn't deserve to get drafted. I thought he was very worthy to get drafted, but I figured if you had to put him and Eugene Asante in a race to say, okay, only 3 players are going to get drafted. Jarquez is going to go. Keandre is going to go. Is it going to be Jalen McLeod? Is it going to be Eugene Asante? I would have said Eugene Asante just based on all of the drafts, the mock drafts that went on, and they all pointed to Eugene Asante being the main guy. One of the big ones from ESPN even mentioned there were only going to be 2 Auburn players drafted. One was Jarquez Hunter in like the 6th round. Later in the 6th round, it was going to be Eugene Asante. So I felt like Eugene Asante was going to get drafted. He does end up signing a UDFA contract, though, so he is going to be going to the league in order to prove himself and try to make an NFL roster before this fall. If it is not with the Miami Dolphins, it will be with someone else. I am fairly positive. So, again, taking a look at who got drafted this year from Auburn, running back Jarquez Hunter went in the 4th round. Number 117 overall to LA. Keandre Lambert-Smith went in the 5th round, number 158 overall to the LA Chargers. And Jalen McLeod went 6th round, number 194 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, of course, Auburn had a pretty busy day on Saturday in the NFL draft. Not only did 3 players get drafted, but a handful of others were picked up by certain clubs to join their team as an undrafted free agent. They'll get a chance to prove themselves in rookie minicamp coming up in a few weeks. Just taking a look at everyone starting alphabetically in the NFL. Defensive lineman Jason Jones going to be heading to the Baltimore Ravens. Quarterback Peyton Thorne picked up a UDFA contract. He's going to be going to Cincinnati to compete with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Rivaldo Fairweather, who came in and was pretty solid. He was Auburn's leading receiver his first year, 2 years ago, back in 2023. Had a pretty good season again last year. He's going to be going to the Dallas Cowboys. Linebacker Eugene Asante going to Miami, as we mentioned, and a handful of guys going to Minnesota. I like the way that Minnesota is looking at our guys. There were 4 players, 4 former Auburn players that are going to Minnesota. Wide receiver Robert Lewis, linebacker Austin Keys, linebacker Dorian Mauzi, and punter Oscar Chapman are going to be going to the Minnesota Vikings. And then defensive lineman Isaiah Rakes going to be going to the Tennessee Titans. Isaiah Rakes, of course, coming in from Auburn from Texas Tech last year. Or I say Texas Tech. He was at Texas Tech, went to USC for the spring, and then ended up at Auburn last fall. So he is going to be going to the NFL. And the big thing that I really like the fit between the LA Rams and Jarquez Hunter. And I'd completely forgotten about this. I know it sounds awful for me to say it, but I had completely forgotten that Rams general manager Les Snead is of course, the general manager for the LA Rams, Auburn alum. And going back and reading some of the things that he said about Jarquez Hunter, he said if Jarquez Hunter is on our list at number 3, he in the third day, I should say, goodness, I'll get it right in a second. But in the third day, if he's still on, we're going to take him with our 4th round pick. And sure enough, they did. Jarquez Hunter was a guy that's been on his radar since last fall. Kind of wonder if, him watching Auburn football games in his spare time really played a role in that. But Jarquez Hunter going to the LA Rams. And then Keandre Lambert-Smith, who did everything that you could have imagined for us in his first year as a Auburn Tiger, coming in from Penn State, was the Tigers' leading receiver, made a lot of really good plays, going 5th round to the LA Chargers. So those 2 guys will get to hang out again in LA. They'll get to share a stadium. Probably, I don't know how often they'll get to see each other, but they will get to share a stadium at SoFi. And then Jalen McLeod getting that 6th round pick going to Jacksonville. And he'll be joining a pair of fellow Auburn players, Tank Bigsby and Daniel Thomas. So if you're, one of those Auburn fans that, you love Auburn sports, but haven't really gotten into the NFL, you want to get into the NFL, and you're looking for a team to follow, Jacksonville, definitely a pretty good one to look out for, as they now have 3 Auburn Tigers on their roster. So we talked about who got drafted, who's not going to be on the team anymore because they've been picked up somewhere else. So now, who are we going to be looking out for next year in the NFL draft? And we're going to be looking at a pair of guys that if they do leave early, I'll be happy for them. I wouldn't want them to leave early because, as I've said before, I'm a selfish Auburn fan. I want them to stay as long as they can. But if they have the seasons that they're projected to have, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they left. Kayan Lee, cornerback. We're going to be talking a lot about him as the show goes on as well, and how he lines up with the defensive secondary. But Kayan Lee going to be coming up as a junior, part of Hugh Freeze's first signing class. He's going to be draft eligible at the end of the year. Keldrick Falk is another guy that's going to be draft eligible at the end of the year. And one key stat that I didn't really realize until the NFL draft got started, but Auburn has not had a first-round draft pick since 2020. That was Noah Iguanagany. He went to the Dolphins late, and then it was Derek Brown going 5th overall to the Panthers. So that is the last time that we've had a number 1 or a first-round pick, and I think even before then, oh gosh, you have to go back. I know Cam was, of course, 1st overall. Nick Fairley was 1 overall, so it had to be, last decade, the last time that even happened, and that wasn't even, not even close by. It's not really a constant thing. Going back in history, but if anybody can do it, I'm keeping my eye on those 2. I'm keeping my eye on Kayan Lee, cornerback, and Keldrick Falk. If they have great years like they're projected to have, they will be leaving Auburn early, which, again, the selfish Auburn fan in me does not want them to leave early, but it's a strong possibility that they could be leaving early. So those are my top 2 picks that I'm looking for going to the NFL draft next year. And you've got some guys that they will be out of eligibility and they will be solid for NFL teams. Dylan Wade who's coming into his third year as an Auburn Tiger on the offensive line. He's played a handful of different positions. We know what he's capable of doing. And Dylan Wade going to be a pretty solid candidate. Jeremiah Wright going to be another one. Looking at the list of possible players, we're going to be losing a lot of offensive linemen next year, regardless if they're going to be leaving for the NFL draft, or there's a possibility that they could be picked up for an NFL contract. Dylan Wade, Jeremiah Wright are two that I'm looking at right now. Xavier Chapman, even though he hasn't played a game in an Auburn uniform, he's going to be competing for that right tackle spot this year, and I expect him to have a great year as he did at Virginia Tech. So I'm looking forward to those three guys especially. And then one that I'm keeping my eye on that could leave early because he's had a phenomenal career at center. He has, for the most part, done everything he's asked. He's going to be great again this year. Connor Lew is a guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does in the NFL. Are we going to keep him for another year, or is he going to be gone at the end of the year? That's, what I'm curious to look at as we go forward. And then two other guys that have not played a snap for Auburn, but they have a lot of hype surrounding him, one being Eric Singleton Jr., the leading receiver from Georgia Tech the last 2 years. He was the number one receiver coming out of the transfer portal. We signed him. Horatio Fields from Wake Forest is also another guy that's going to be eligible for the NFL draft. Both of those guys a little undersized for what the NFL is looking for, but they have the talent to really succeed in a schematic offense. So that's who I'm looking forward to, as long as they have great years at Auburn. I know Eric Singleton has a shot to come back. Xavier Chapman has a shot to come back. Connor Lew has a shot to come back. And then the first two guys that we mentioned, Kayan Lee, Keldrick Falk, those are the two guys that I'm expecting to have the highest draft potential, with Keldrick Falk possibly ending Auburn's drought for not having an NFL first-round pick, which is it's crazy, but at the same time, I get it. It's kind of been a rough patch of a decade. Hugh Freeze has done a great job recruiting. Maybe we'll see some of those results on the field this year, and we can start going up as a program. But as of right now, you can kind of see where Auburn is as a program based on their what they've done in the NFL draft. And then looking back, though, we talk about only having three guys taken this year. Only one or two first-round picks. Haven't had none since 2020. This isn't the worst draft we've had. I was looking back at it. In 2020, Roger McCreary went in the third round, and that was the only one we had. So, it's not the worst draft we had. We had a couple drafts in the middle of 2010s where there was only one guy taken, maybe two guys taken. So you're looking back like, man, we really haven't had that many draft picks this year. It's not by far not the worst that we've had. And I feel like next year we're going to have a lot more draft guys to talk about. And Keldrick Falk could be that guy. He's already high up on ESPN's list. He's high on CBS Sports list. I'm sure there's a lot more that I haven't had a chance to look at yet. But Keldrick Falk is looking to end that drought next year. And I'm looking forward to seeing what all he can do. As we mentioned, this is the second episode of Auburn Tigers Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. And did you know that this is the second show? So this is still a relatively new thing. But one thing that's happened at the Voice of College Football Network over the last week, since the last time we talked, is we have a brand new website. You have one more way that you can connect with Auburn Tigers Live, with everything going on at the Voice of College Football, and that is at vocfb.com. And on that site, you can check out the full show schedule. You can check out to see when we're going to be on. If you're curious to, listen to an Alabama perspective, Crimson Tide Sports Live, you'll know when that's coming on. If you're, a little curious over the summer when there's no sports going on, and you're just, looking to fuel that fire of wanting to get the latest college football news from any other school, Florida, Missouri, Penn State, USC, Texas A&M. That full show schedule is going to be on the Voice of College Football. You can also check out the latest college football news. We've got a team of writers over there keeping up with everything going on in the world of college football. You can also share your thoughts on Auburn football and college football in general by checking out the forums. That's another way that you can reach out to us if you're interested in having your comments and thoughts on the show. Head on over to the forums at vocfb.com. Be sure to check that out. So we've talked about the NFL draft. It's now time to move over to the transfer portal, and Auburn picked up one big addition, and that is in cornerback Rayshawn Pleasant. As we mentioned, Rayshawn Pleasant coming over from Tulane. Spent 2 seasons in Tulane, and he recorded 40 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 interception, and a bulk of those tackles, or the bulk of those stats happened this past year. So as we mentioned, 40 tackles, 1 for loss, 1 interception. Last year alone in 2024, 35 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and interception. So only 5 tackles are the difference between what he did as a true freshman and what he did last year as a sophomore. Last season, he started 11 games, played 10 at corner. One of those he started at safety. So he's, bringing some more experience to the Auburn defensive secondary, which is losing. I didn't think they were going to be losing a whole lot, but they, actually are. They had a handful of guys dip out and go to the transfer portal following A-Day, one of those being J.C. Hart, who's now over at Utah, and Tyler Scott, who announced last week that he's going to be going to Georgia State. So that's 2 more, and you hear those guys. And of course, Tyler Scott was injured last year. He didn't get to play. And so, he was expected to probably crack that rotation this year, but didn't get a chance to do so. And now he's going over to Georgia State, going over a little closer to his home. I believe he's from Mableton, Georgia. So he's going to go back and play his college ball closer to home. J.C. Hart, who signed with Auburn from Lochapoka High School, just down the road. If you stand on top of Jordan-Hare Stadium at the right spot, you can look out to the west and probably see his high school. It was that close. He is going to be going to Utah. So, again, things didn't work out here at Auburn. He's going to be going to Utah, trying to crack that spot over in the Big 12. So those are 2 cornerbacks that we lost. But everything should be fine. Looking at the 2 guys that are going to be coming in this year, Kayan Lee, he's going to be returning. We talked about him being a potential NFL candidate next year. Should he have a good year? Should he elect to not play his senior year and go to the NFL? He's going to be back. Jay Crawford, who burst on the scene last year as a true freshman, he's going to be coming back this year. And then you have Kinsley Faustin, who didn't play a whole lot last year. I think he only had 9 opportunities to cover a pass last year. He's going to be gone. And then the big guy that's not going to be back is Keontae Scott. Keontae Scott, played for a while at Auburn, and I think he's part of that JUCO ruling, which has gotten a lot of more so in basketball. I've noticed that people are taking advantage of the new rule in basketball as opposed to football, but the Diego Pavia rule, where players with JUCO experience, while all that's getting sorted out, is going to have the opportunity to play 1 more year of college football. He decided he was going to go and hang out with Zach Etheridge at Houston. And right before we went on the air today, come to find out that he is back in the transfer portal. Don't know what happened after spring, but Keontae Scott is back in the transfer portal, which I feel like it was supposed to end last week. Not really sure how he got to enter, unless he entered a while back and the news outlets are just now picking it up. But he's no longer with the Houston Cougars. He is now back in the transfer portal. Don't know where he's going to go, what's going to happen. But Keandre Scott, most experienced corner that Auburn had last year, he is gone. But you do have 2 guys that are coming back. And you got Rayshawn Pleasant that's going to be coming in. So you look at the situation of, we have 2 guys that left. They didn't really contribute much on the field last year. So you're thinking, okay, they're going to bring in Rayshawn Pleasant as a depth piece. And yeah, they probably are, but you really got to look at his numbers real quick and you say to yourself, there's a pretty strong possibility that he could get a lot of time on the field. And you look at what he did at Tulane. We mentioned the 40 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 interception. That interception was a pick six, by the way. He did that against Lafayette, I believe. And so we know he's got the speed. We know that he can pick off players. But taking a look at what he did in Pro Football Focus stats, taking a look at him being a coverage corner, 51.4% of passes were caught when being covered by Rayshawn Pleasant. So that's pretty solid. You know, looking at comparing that stat to the 2 corners that are coming back, Kayan Lee allowed 46.9% of passes caught, 23 of 49. So that's a pretty good number. And then you look at Jay Crawford, the true freshman that we mentioned that just came out of nowhere. He allowed 40.6% of passes to be caught, 13 of 32. So you mix those 2 guys in with Rayshawn Pleasant and his 51.4%. That's a pretty solid cornerback group right there. As we mentioned, Kinsley Falston didn't have a lot of opportunities to cover passes, but when he did, 5 of 9 passes were caught for 55.6%. So you've got 4 really solid guys coming in at corner. And, we talked about Keontae Scott and, what did he do compared to those guys? And again, not trying to throw the guy under the bus, but you look at what Kayan Lee did, what Jay Crawford did. Keontae Scott allowed 72%, 73% actually, 72.7% of passes to be caught. 16 of 22 passes that were thrown to a receiver that he was covering were caught. So you have 4 guys really, if you think about it, allowing a 55% or less completion rate compared to Keontae Scott, who allowed 73% of passes to be caught. So cornerback, we're going to be fine. We're going to be good. Not only are we going to be good at cornerback, but our return game has gotten so much better with the addition of Rayshawn Pleasant. He was a pretty good corner at Tulane. Even better returner. Last year, 13 kicks he returned for 449 yards. Two kicks he returned to the house. That's pretty solid. So how does that compare to other Auburn returners that we have coming back? Jeremiah Cobb, I don't know if he's still going to be a returner because Damari Austin and him should be sharing the role at running back next year with the departure of Darquez Hunter. But Jeremiah Cobb, he returned 19 kicks last year for 444 yards. Didn't score a touchdown. But the way I'm looking at it is you have 2 dangerous kick returners in the Auburn special teams. So secondary is going to be good with Rayshawn Pleasant. Kickers are going to be great. Kicking off will be good for the Auburn Tigers this year, thanks to Rayshawn Pleasant, a cornerback from Tulane that joined us over the last week. And we're looking forward to seeing how he fits in with the defense, how he'll fit in with the special teams, and how everyone else around him is better. And we'd like to say thanks again to everyone for listening to Auburn Tigers Live or watching us on YouTube Live, however you're doing so. We are live every single Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on YouTube. You can also check us out after every show. If you can't join us live, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can also go to vocfb.com, check out our archives. And while you're here, if you're watching live, you get the chance to watch live, or if you're watching or listening to this later, we'd love to hear from you. We want to know what you'd like for this show to cover more. If you're liking the football talk, if you want to hear a little bit more about recruiting, if you have any questions or concerns about things that are going on in Auburn football, we invite you to head on over to the comments. Leave us a comment. We'll be happy to read those on the air. You can also find us on social media at the VOCFB. And make sure that your voice is heard in regards to Auburn football and Auburn Tigers Live. So we've talked about the NFL draft. We've talked about Rayshawn Pleasant joining the team from Tulane, from the transfer portal. Going to take a look at some recruiting that's going on now. Recruiting is starting to pick up, as you can imagine, as we get ready for the summer months. And a lot of those guys that Auburn has their eye on, they are going to be coming in for visits. They're going to be uh, committing, regardless if they commit to Auburn or if they're not. It's just going to be a very interesting summer, as always has been under Hugh Freeze. And one of the guys that we're looking at right now, one guy that we know of that has scheduled his official visit is Edge Trenton Henderson. Trenton Henderson, a four-star edge from Pensacola, Florida, announced last week that he will be coming to Auburn on May the 16th. And why that's notable is because he said in an interview with Chad Simmons of On3 that it was between Auburn and USC for his top two, but he's still going to take his 5 official visits. He's going to be going to Auburn. He's going to be going to USC. He's going to be going to LSU, Michigan, and Florida. Those are going to be the 5 schools that he is going to visit. And why it's important that Auburn is getting the May 16th visit is because, as we mentioned, USC and Auburn in the running for him. Auburn gets that first visit. He's going to go to USC, I think, at the end of the visit. So Auburn has a chance to make a strong impression. And as we've seen, they have the capability of making such a strong impression that guys commit on the spot. So, that could be a good thing, or it could be, not so, good of a thing, because if he goes to USC last, the Trojans are going to be last on his mind. It's going to be more of a recency thing. So Trenton Henderson, a guy that really likes Auburn, says he feels like he's at home every time he comes to Auburn, will be coming for a visit on May the 16th. So we'll be on the lookout for that and kind of keep an eye on what he's doing in his recruitment. Another running back that put Auburn in their top 6 last week, since the last time we spoke, was Jay Lamar. Auburn in his top 6, joining Georgia, Clemson, Miami, Florida State, and Ohio State in the mix. Last season at Colquitt County High School in Moultrie, Georgia, South Georgia. Just the strong running back types. You always want a good offensive lineman. You always want a good running back out of South Georgia, and he is definitely one of the better running backs in South Georgia. Last year rushed for 885 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he had 3 games where he rushed for over 100 yards. And taking a look at what Auburn will have next year, and this is, of course, pending anybody that they sign in the 2026 class, pending anybody, God forbid, that's going to leave the program in the transfer portal. And these are the two that were the situation that Auburn has at running back next year and how he would fit in. Damari Alston is a senior. So, chances are he's going to be the premier back. Him and Jeremiah Cobb are going to be splitting the carries this year. You got Darrell Robinson, who transferred in from UConn. He's still going to have some eligibility left. Then you have true freshman Alvin Henderson, who broke all kinds of records in Alabama High School Athletic Association. So he's going to be there. And then they have 0 high school commits so far. It seems like every commit that we have is on the defensive side of the ball right now. So Auburn does not have a running back in that class. They're going to have a spot in the running back spot should Jay Lamar decide that he wants to take that spot, or there's going to be several others that are going to have a shot as well to fill that role. And Hugh Freeze is going to do it however he can do it. Auburn's going to have a running back coming into that class, and it could be Jay Lamar, the 4-star running back from Colquitt County in Moultrie, Georgia. And then the other bit of recruiting news, this was something that, of course, went live right before we went live. Jeffrey Lee of On3 reported that Matthew Caldwell, a transfer quarterback, is visiting Auburn on Monday, actually. As we record this live, he's probably on his visit right now. Shout out Jackson Johnson, fellow host of the Voice of College Football, the Alabama show, saying, "What's up, Tiger Nation?" Welcome. What's up to you too, Jackson? And we look forward to seeing what's going on in the world of Alabama athletics. Thanks to your show. Be sure to go check him out as well. So Matthew Caldwell visiting Auburn, as we mentioned, and a lot of those that know Matthew Caldwell, follow high school football. He played football at Auburn High School. He was a quarterback at Auburn High. 6'4", signed with Jacksonville State out of high school. Played at Jacksonville State for a little bit, and then he went to Gardner-Webb for a couple of years. Made his way back to Troy, where he's played a bulk of his college career at Troy. Now he's looking to try to play a little bit closer to home. That's kind of what we're gathering right now. Last season at Troy, he started the last 5 games of the year. He passed for 1,608 yards, 13 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. What he did last year, completed 63% of his passes. 13 of his 225 pass attempts were considered turnover worthy by Pro Football Focus. 9 of them were dropped by Trojan receivers. So that's, kind of, when you see a stat like that where he's thrown a handful of interceptions, or the touchdown to interception relationship is pretty close, too close for comfort, you've got to look at Pro Football Focus and see exactly why that is. Another thing that Pro Football Focus really helped me understand was Ashton Daniels. You look at his stats, and, he threw a lot of interceptions last year, didn't throw as many passing yards, but you look at how many times he was pressured, how many times receivers dropped the ball, and you say, okay, we get it. So that's, kind of what we're looking at with Matthew Caldwell right now, former Auburn High School Tiger, Auburn Baby Tiger, back in the day, from what they were used to be called. On a visit to Auburn right now, as we mentioned, he threw 13 turnover-worthy passes, and 8 of those were intercepted. But he did throw 225 passes last year, so that's still a pretty wide gap. And then 9 of those passes were dropped by Trojan receivers, and he was pressured 65 times last year with 10 sacks. That's a look at what Matthew Caldwell did as a Troy Trojan. He started the last 5 games for the Trojans, played a little bit in the early part of the season. I think he got to play a pretty good bit in the Iowa game. That was the second game of the year, I believe, is when he played against them. So last season, he passed for over 200 yards 3 times last season. His season high was a 304-yard game against Arkansas State. And his best game scoring-wise, he threw 4 touchdowns against UL Lafayette in a game later on in the season. A lot of people are asking, why are we going after another quarterback? We just, signed a slew of quarterbacks. Well, the thing that Hugh Freeze wants, and he mentioned this last week, we played a little bit of a clip of him talking about that last week in last week's show. And he said that he wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks. And that's, something he mentioned after 8A. That's something he mentioned at the end of last season. And all of Auburn's quarterbacks left. Peyton Thorne just picked up by the Cincinnati Bengals. Walker White's now going to be at Baylor. Hopefully he's not going to be the starting quarterback when we play there to open the year. Hank Brown going to Iowa. And so, no quarterbacks left, pretty much. And then you go in, you add Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma, more than likely going to be the starter unless something wild happens. Deuce Knight going to be coming in as a true freshman. A lot of coaches, a lot of media members who have got the chance to watch him have said that he's well beyond his years. So, I think Jackson Arnold's job is safe. Not 1,000% sure, though, because Deuce Knight is definitely coming in and he's hungry for it. And then you have Ashton Daniels coming in from Stanford. Georgia product, went to Stanford, wants to come back to Auburn, finish out his career. And so you need one more quarterback. They do have Tanner Bailey, who used to play at South Carolina, but came to Auburn as a student, and now he's back playing football after he retired. He was a pretty solid quarterback at Gordo High School. I can remember his team in 2020, I believe, beat my alma mater, or they didn't beat my alma mater. My alma mater played them, Hanley High School, and in the state championship. And he had a pretty good game, even though we lost. So we know, what kind of quarterback he is. So those are the 4 they have right now, but only 3 of those are on scholarship, and they're looking to add one more scholarship quarterback. Will Matthew Caldwell get the job? Not really sure, but he's proven at Troy, he's proven at Jacksonville State that he is a pretty solid option should any of our quarterbacks get hurt. Jacksonville State, That was kind of his role. He started a few games with the Gamecocks before he went to Troy, and then Goose Crowder, didn't get to play the last 5 games of the year, so he filled in, did a pretty good job considering. So Matthew Caldwell looking to close out his college career closer to home should he commit to the Auburn Tigers. But again, Matthew Caldwell, former Auburn High School quarterback, on a visit to Auburn as we speak. That's a look at Auburn football recruiting talk. And of course, if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want us to look out for the next week, be sure to send it over in our comments section right now. Or if you're watching this later, if you're checking it out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or however you're doing it, be sure to go over to the video and leave a comment. We'll be happy to read it on the air next week. You can stay up to date with college football by checking out our other shows. We mentioned Jackson Johnson checking out our show today from Alabama. He's got a show here on the Voice of College Football Network. If you're looking for any SEC talk whatsoever, there's a show for Alabama. There's a show for Georgia, Florida, LSU, Texas, Mizzou, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, South Carolina. All of those fine schools have shows here on the Voice of College Football Network. But if you're curious as to how anything else is going on in the world of college football, maybe USC, maybe Oregon, defending national champs Ohio State, North Carolina, Colorado has a show too. I'm sure their show this week is going to be absolutely insane with what happened in the NFL draft with Shedeur Sanders. But all of those fine institutions have shows on the Voice of College Football Network, and you can check them out on a handful of different places, including YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course our brand new website, vocfb.com. We've talked a lot about Auburn Tigers football. We recapped the NFL draft. Of course, 3 players being selected in this year's draft, a handful of others going to the NFL on undrafted free agent contracts. Talked a little bit about some players that we could see in the NFL draft next year, including Keldrick Falk, who could erase that drought that Auburn has of not having a single first-round pick since the 2020 draft. When Noah Igbenogany and Derek Brown both went in that draft. We talked a little bit about recruiting. We talked about the addition of Rashawn Pleasant, which I'm very excited about. He's going to be a great addition to Auburn from the cornerback perspective and the kickoff return specialist side of things. And then Matthew Caldwell, as we mentioned, on a visit to Auburn. A couple of key targets to look out for in their recruitment. 4-star edge Trenton Henderson going to be coming to Auburn in May. Jay Lamar, running back from Colquitt County in South Georgia, has put Auburn in his top 6 list, which hopefully that when that fat is trimmed, we're still on there, and we can talk about him possibly joining the Auburn Tigers roster for the 2026 season. So that's what's going on in Auburn football now, and I had planned to make this whole show about Auburn football, maybe talk a little bit about Auburn baseball as we go on in the later parts of the show. But something came up today, and it's something that cannot go undiscussed. It cannot, and that is Chad Baker-Mazara. Chad Baker-Mazara has made his decision. Is he coming back to Auburn? No, he is not. He is not coming back to Auburn. He instead will be going out west to play in the Big Ten, which again is very weird for me to say. But he is heading to USC, going to be playing for head coach Eric Musselman and the USC Trojans. You can go head on over to USC Trojans Live. Matt Zemek, I'm sure, has got a lot to say about Chad Baker-Mazara. And, ended up being a pretty weird story. So we talked about it last week, and that Chad Baker-Mazara was going to be gone, but we weren't exactly sure of the details that went into it. But Jeff Goodman of Field of 68, he talked about Chad Baker-Mazara and what kind of the things that were going on with him. And there was a report that it was an NIL dispute. Don't really know that for sure. I'm just going based on what he said. He apparently was not. He was happy with the money he got, but then another player may have gotten more. Not really sure. Uh, and then he wasn't happy, so then he left. What does that mean in terms of contracts? I don't know. That's something I've got to look into, and maybe I'll become an expert by the next week. But if not, then it is what it is. Uh, but then not only that, but you also had several SEC schools that were looking into him, which would have made this thing so much more interesting. Arkansas was one that was looking into him. Ole Miss was looking into him. I believe Kentucky had some interest as well. Kentucky, a program known for a lot of one and done. They're also known for snagging pretty good talent in the transfer portal. So it doesn't surprise me much that they would be interested in Chad Baker-Mazara, a guy that is very experienced. He's done very well in the SEC against tough SEC competition. So it really, doesn't surprise me at all that that would have been a possibility. But he does join Eric Musselman's team and the USC Trojans, which it should be. It should be his final eligible year based on the Diego Pavia rule, as we've mentioned, where players with JUCO experience will get the chance to play one more year of college athletics. And with Chad Baker-Mazara, he, of course, signed with Duquesne out of Dominican Republic, played there for a year, played at San Diego State for a year, made his way to Northwest Florida College in the Panhandle, came to Auburn for 2 years. Now he's heading back to Southern California to play for Eric Musselman and the USC Trojans. He is the second player that left Auburn through the transfer portal that has already announced their destination. Another kid going out west is Shakai Howard, but he announced last week that he is going to Utah. So again, Chad Baker-Mazara officially leaving Auburn. That relationship is done. I was pleased to see on social media after the decision was made. I know it wasn't very popular among a lot of Auburn fans when he announced that he was going to be leaving, because a lot of people felt that it may have been a loyalty thing. It may have been, something else. They weren't very happy. But then, they kind of gave him a week to calm down, and Chad Baker-Mazara has found a new home. And a lot of Auburn fans, wished him well on social media today. So I was very thankful to see that. And CBM seems to be thankful for his time at Auburn as well. So that's a little bit of basketball news, and then we'll wrap things up with baseball. Baseball getting a big series win over Mississippi State over the weekend. They won the first game of the series 6-5 on Friday, lost 12-7 on Saturday, and they wrapped up the series with a 14-8 win over the Bulldogs on Sunday. And the final two games of the series were very similar, but different in how they were worked out. Saturday's game, Mississippi State got out to a huge lead. Auburn tried to come back, couldn't quite make it happen. They lose 12-7. Then on the other end of that, Auburn put up 11 runs over the first 4 innings, I believe. 14-8 your final score. So they were able to build that strong lead and carry it into the rest of the game. Talking after the game, head coach Butch Thompson kind of mentioned how important it was for Auburn to bounce back in the win.
Yeah, step one were some adjustments we said we need to make. Step two was announcing the starting pitcher, and that was the first start of the year for Tilly. It seemed like that's what the team wanted, because I'm looking to get that fast start, and I'm looking for what that team really wants. And I guess he probably pitched about as many pitches as he has all year. At least covered almost half of the game with the 4 innings there. But offensively, we did talk about trying to promote a fast start, was getting the leadoff man on. And I thought that was a difference. That was our calling card. And first inning, I think Rembert got on as a leadoff guy. We scored 2 runs. The second inning, Ballou was the leadoff man on. We had the sac fly by Fabian, 2-run homer by Rembert, and then McMurray was huge today. Had the 3-run homer. And then the fourth inning, we got the leadoff man on. That was Irish. He still had the 2 RBI single there. So 11 or 14 runs were built around that leadoff man. It's nice when you say something and see it come play out the ball game. I compliment Mississippi State because those guys, they swung it last weekend. We knew they were coming in just absolutely had power. The extra base hits, how every series they've just slugged it more than who they played. They absolutely did that. So you can't say, hey, let's go score double digits, but we kind of had to. That's how they're swinging the baseball bats. We get 14 runs today. Parker Cross has been out for weeks and eased him back in for a couple of outs last week, and he gave us 2 critical innings. Their home runs were solos today, thankfully. And then Carson Myers takes the ball for the 3rd time this week. He finds the finish line for us. So the last asterisk in my head is it's the worst personally I felt physically under the weather here in my 10 years. And I give our coaches and our players a ton of credit. They just absolutely, I missed a lot of the game today, trying to recover from something, and how they just absolutely took everything that we talked about and filled in a lot of gaps when I couldn't be around pre-game and stuff like that. Just did a great job. Proud of the ball club.
So it was a pretty big game from the Auburn Tigers, getting a series clinching win over Mississippi State to move above 500 on the year. They'll play 2 games this week. They'll play I guess technically at Samford, but it's a neutral site game at the Hoover Met. They'll play Tuesday at 6, and then they'll play a top 15 showdown. If you're looking at the USA Today rankings, if you're looking at D1 rankings, the top 10 showdown with the Tennessee Volunteers. Auburn checking in at number 5 in the rankings this week. They impressed the guys at D1 baseball with that series win over Mississippi State, and now they are number 5 in that poll. They'll take on Tennessee this weekend in Knoxville. 5:30 Central first pitch on Friday, 5 o'clock Central first pitch on Saturday, and then they'll close things out on Sunday with a noon start against the Tennessee Volunteers. Looking to see the TV. I don't think they've announced the TV networks for those games just yet, but you can, of course, check those out, I'm sure, on either SEC Network Plus, or they may be on one of the ESPN family of networks as well. But some very interesting news that came out after the game ended. Mississippi State relieved head coach Chris Lemonis from his role. That was something that happened Monday afternoon. Zach Selman, the athletic director at Mississippi State, he said, "A change in leadership is what's best for the future of Mississippi State baseball. We have not consistently met the standard of success that our university fans and student athletes expect and deserve. I want to thank Chris Lemonis for his work and the time that he gave to our program, including a national championship in 2021. We appreciate his efforts and wish him and his family the best moving forward." And, you get on social media, and a lot of Mississippi State fans were not happy with the way that the season had been going so far. 25-19 is where they're at the timing of this recording, 7-14 in SEC play. They'll play Memphis in midweek action, and then they will take on, let's see who they're going to play after. They're going to play Memphis, and then they'll play Kentucky at home. Mississippi State will. So, of course, looking at it, we think, oh, man, we played so well over the weekend. We ended a tenure of college baseball coach. But the other part of me, which is the Auburn baseball junkie, knows the history of head coach Butch Thompson and what he means to Mississippi State. I'm again, selfish Auburn fan here. Do not want his name to be put in the mix. I just don't know if I can handle it. I will not be at peace until I know for a fact that Mississippi State has hired a coach that is not Butch Thompson. So we are, kind of keeping an eye on that, and hopefully Mississippi State and all the other programs that will be looking for a head coach will not be pecking around Auburn for their next head coach. As we mentioned, pretty busy week coming up for the Auburn Tigers as they take on Samford on Tuesday in midweek action at the Hoover Met. Then they will play Tennessee in a weekend series. It'll be one of 3 weekend series that are left in the season. You've got at Tennessee this upcoming weekend. They'll play at home against South Carolina, and then we'll end the season at Ole Miss. So it's going to be a wild ride, but Auburn is in a good position right now to not only finish strong, but also host a regional, which is pretty impressive. And we're looking forward to seeing how this year shakes out. But we have had a blast here on episode number 2 of Auburn Tigers Live from the voice of college football. Talked a little bit about the NFL draft, who the Tigers, which Tigers got selected, which Tigers got picked up by UFDA, some Tigers that will, be something to look for in next year's NFL draft. Will they be able to erase the drought that we've had of not producing a single first round pick since 2020? Could be a possibility that it could happen next year with Keldrick Falk. We talked a little bit about transfer portal. We talked about recruiting. Talked about Chad Baker Mazzara finding a new home. And then, of course, we ended things with a little Auburn baseball talk. Now, as we mentioned, be sure to check us out on social media, on Twitter, especially at the VOCFB. You can also leave your comments and your questions for us over the next week. We'll be sure to get to them and read them on the air as we go. But until next time, we hope everyone has a wonderful night and a wonderful week. And we look forward to talking with you again next week here on the Voice of College Football Network.